Welcome to America's Commercial Real Estate Show, your source for market intel, forecasts, and strategies. Hello, I'm Michael Bull. Thank you for being with us. This segment is brought to you by CommercialAgentSuccess.com. Check it out. It is cloud-based access to 21 videos for commercial agent training, and it's for experienced commercial brokers. Check it out, CommercialAgentSuccess.com. Well, we have a fun show for you today. You know, drone use has been happening for a long time, but it's really been elevated over the last few years. So we're going to talk about some of the uses that commercial real estate folks are utilizing drones for. We're going to talk about some of the latest technology and what you can do with these drones these days. We're also going to talk about the legal requirements of the drones and what to watch out for if you're using a drone or you're engaging someone to do some drone footage for you, some things that you really need to make sure you know if you're in the commercial real estate business, and also some training opportunities around drones. Please welcome my guest. It's Lamar Ellis. He's president of Drone Education Services, and here in Studio One. Lamar, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thank you, Michael. So glad to be here.
Well, thanks. And as I mentioned in the opening here, I'd like to talk about some of the uses that you're seeing folks use drones for, because, you know, I'm a commercial real estate broker, and I think about, you know, one of the main things we use them for is marketing, right? Showing buildings for lease and for sale and giving great footage. But that's not all the uses that they're being used for, is it?
No, but the real estate brokers were the first to take advantage of it, and they really introduced it to the market. You've got not only marketing, but you've got valuation, you've got construction, you've got insurance, architecture, litigation, property management, and those are just a taste of what they're using drones for in the real estate side.
Yeah, and one thing that we see drones used for is inspections, right? Can you give us some examples of what you're seeing there?
Well, yesterday I actually got to do an inspection of the control tower at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. They were looking for water leaks, and they couldn't determine where the water leaks were, so they hired 5x5 drone company out of Arkansas, and Brian Alexander flew it, and my affiliation with AUVSI allowed me to go out there and observe the operation. It was quite unique. They had to shut down a couple of runways for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And what about some of the requirements? Let's talk about licenses, because if we're going to engage someone to do drone footage, or obviously do it ourselves, what's required legally?
That's a great question. You have to have a certification, and a certification is basically a certificate that allows you to be able to use a drone for commercial purposes. And if you're using a drone for any kind of inspection that aids in a business, then that is a commercial use. And so the operator has to have what is called a Part 107 commercial certification, and the drone needs to be registered commercially. So but the real rub on all of this is that just because you can pass an exam does not mean that you can fly the drone. And
yeah.
So
that's kind of like the real estate license, right? You get a real estate license doesn't mean you can do commercial real estate brokerage at all.
Exactly.
That's terrible. So where does someone register their drone, and where does someone get the certification they need, the license?
The best source is the FAA. The FAA has got a website. It's UAS, which stands for Unmanned Aircraft Services. And you go into that site, and it has links that will take you to getting the certifications, and also learning about some of the operational rules that are involved. It is also the best source for registering your drone. And you have to have your drone registered whether you fly it commercially or recreationally.
Oh, really?
Yes.
All right. So even if you're just playing with one in your backyard, it's supposed to be registered.
Well, let me go back.
Okay.
If it meets a certain weight limit for recreational, it has to, if it's over 0.55 pounds, but the best description I've heard is that if it weighs over 2 sticks of butter, then you need to get it registered. Now for the commercial, no, regardless of the weight, you have to have it registered.
Okay. And, you know, someone might, I guess, register their drone, right? So they're legal there, but maybe they don't have the license required, and they're out, you know, filming their filming their boat, their friend's boat going, is that okay?
Yeah, it's great. You know,
Yeah.
you can fly commercial, recreationally all you want, but let's say your buddy goes and takes that footage and throws it online and wants to sell his boat. Well, now you've kind of crossed over to the realm of a commercial business. So if you do anything that aids yourself or aids somebody else in business, then that's a commercial use.
Wow. And who's enforcing that? How's it enforced?
The FAA is trying to get the enforcement arm up and running. And so they're looking at YouTubes, they're looking at listings on MLS and Zillow and things of that nature to see, you know, where these properties are. And what's really getting some of these pilots in trouble is they might be too close to an airport and didn't receive authorization to fly with inside that airspace, or flying too high or something.
How about the technology of the drones? Because I thought some of these drones, the technology was such that the drone itself would know it not to fly in those areas. Is that not the case?
It depends on the brand that you're using.
Okay.
I fly both a DJI drone and an Autel drone. DJI has what's called geofencing. And geofencing is that if it's in a restricted area or in airspace that I'm not allowed to fly in, it will either give me a warning or will not allow me to fly. My Autel assumes that I know what I'm doing and that I have checked the airspaces to figure out the clearances that I'm going into.
Wow. What is some of the other technology that's more recent in drones that might surprise people?
Well, the use of LiDAR. That's laser detection. And so what LiDAR does is it gives you accurate measurements. And so now they're using drones to look at properties so that you can see the undulations of the hills, so for development and things of that nature, and it can actually penetrate the trees. And then they mix that with photogrammetry, which is actually pictures. And so you get an actual picture of what you're looking at, plus you can get the measurements from it and get other useful information that you can use.
And a lot of our, well, most all of our listeners are in commercial real estate in some form or fashion. And you said that earlier we were talking that even tax assessors are using them. How are they using them?
They've actually been doing test studies. One of the things that's really kind of been a knock on the drone market is the privacy infringement and security concerns that people have. And those are being worked out in the courts. But if you look at your cell phone, you give far more information away on your cell phone than a drone could ever capture from the skies. But tax assessors are utilizing these because they are realizing that they can cover more properties. And with government personnel being more limited in the amount of workers that are available, and the fact that they can only traverse maybe 4, 5, 6 properties within an hour, where a drone could cover over 100 if necessary, you can get far better information and data to utilize. And it's really hard to argue in court if you put the pool in your backyard and didn't get it permitted and it's showing up on the drone photograph, then, you know, preventing the assessor from getting into your backyard.
Interesting. So you might see a drone flying over your backyard and it might be the tax assessor. It might be whomever, right?
I'm sure we'll get in prior notification that that's going on, but yes.
Yeah. Great. And you were recently at an event where there was some great technology and examples of drone use. Tell us something there.
Last week, I was one of the hosts at a event down at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center in Forsyth, Georgia. And we did an event called Power in Public Safety. We had 12 drone companies come in, and this was one of the very first scenarios where we actually had live demonstrations. So we did right-of-way inspections, we did power substation inspection, water tower, cell tower, search and rescue. We even sank an automobile in the lake and had an underwater drone go out there and locate it using sonar technology. We even were fortunate enough to down at Gypstick, they actually lit a building on fire. And we actually had 3 different types of drones. We had DJI, Autel, and Parrot up in the air at the same time, showcasing their abilities to help the firefighters enter the building safely and identify where the hot spots were to take care of the fire.
Wow. And so the That's awesome. And so the drone that was helping with the car underwater, was that flying in the air using some sort of sonar or what?
No, it was called a deep tracker.
Okay.
And it actually, they put it into the lake, and it used sonar to be able to find the car, which was hidden behind one of the drainage culverts, which was really interesting. And for an underwater drone, they actually have to have it on a tether.
Oh, okay.
Because you cannot send signals through the water.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that. What are some other uses that people are using these drones for that might surprise people?
Well, in construction, scope of work, allocation of resources. Is the work being done? And actually, they are discovering that on commercial development sites, they can actually figure out how to finish up a site a little bit earlier before time of construction was generally planned to be completed, because they are able to assess what's going on and reallocate their resources to the proper areas. You've got insurance. They're taking baseline assessments of properties. Imagine this, the hurricane that came through South Florida. Well, some of those homes were actually looked at through drone technology before the storm. And so what happens is the insurance agent can go out there, fly the property, and possibly expedite the claims a lot faster and get a better assessment of what's going on at the site.
Interesting. And they're going to the site and flying the drone there, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Interesting. Because some of this technology is leading to more kind of unmanned crews, right? And what's it called now?
Uncrewed.
Uncrewed. It's not unmanned. We got to be,
Well, AUVSI stands for the Association for Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International, and they changed their name this year from unmanned to uncrewed. That's and that just means that there's nobody on board the craft that is steering or driving the craft.
Yeah, yeah. And what is changing in construction and design of new buildings with this drone and uncrewed vehicles growing?
They're already starting to plan for the future, and the future is that we'll have uncrewed vehicles on the roads that will be taking people to and from work or to and from shopping, similar to what Uber and Lyft are doing today. And so now they're already starting to, how do they do their parking decks? And so parking decks used to be elevated. And so now we're starting to see parking decks being built flat so that they can be repurposed in the future. So the ramps going up to the next level will be your staircases, elevator systems, storage units. You've also got road systems can now be smaller so that you can have more green communities in city and urban environments. And even in an urban environment, think about the garage. Well, if there's no need for having an automobile to transport you back and forth, then that garage becomes now extra space that can be utilized for some other feature in your home.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So you mentioned Uber, and I use Uber in the city, but I was in North Georgia in the mountains, and somebody said, well, let's get an Uber. And they said, well, up here, it's not Uber, Michael. It's called Goober up here. So we call it to get around. And you mentioned, hey, the license doesn't really share with you, how to use a drone and how to fly it. Tell us about the education that is out there at Drone Education Services and elsewhere.
Well, I do too training, but that is one of those things that I have noticed over the years. Some people are far better at flying the drone immediately by picking it up, and some should never ever touch a drone. I've actually had some people I know that have crashed my drones into trees, and you would have thought, oh my gosh, they would be the best pilot in the world because they actually fly commercial aircraft.
Oh.
And then, but find a good place to fly, and it's just a ability of just basically just keep repeating the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. I play music. It's similar to playing music. Mm-hmm. You don't just pick up a guitar and start playing it. You have to learn the chords and then gently strum, and then you go to the next one. And so that's kind of how flying is. Mm-hmm. You learn a maneuver, and then you move to another maneuver, and you add complexity as you go along.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's important. years ago, I had a drone. I was flying it, and I was doing a video of a nice medical building. And I thought, well, I know how to do this. This is great. And then all of a sudden, the drone just took a life of its own. Maybe this was early, technology, and it just took off sideways and hit the building. And the building was open. There were people going in and out, and I'm like, all right, this is terrible. I can't do this. Right.
That's why hiring an experienced pilot is necessary. And also, on some of these job sites that I'm on, I'll actually give a warning or at least express to the employees that, hey, there's a drone that's going to be flown. And I try to put it into a position to where it's not going to impact anybody if it were to go on its own path, or if it were to crash into a parking lot. I don't want to hit a car out there.
If someone owns a building, or they're in our industry, and they're hired someone to do drone footage, what are some tips there?
Well, you've got basically two types of companies out there. You've got those that are the professional companies that know what they're doing, and they've got the equipment to do it. And then you've got the companies that basically have bought the equipment and are trying to figure it out as they go along. And so you've got YouTube, you've got social media that actually is the best resource. And you can go through the social media and discover, previous applications and things that they've done to showcase their work. But I always suggest that when you get that pilot, you ask them to see their certifications, their drone registrations, and insurance.
Oh, all three.
Yeah.
And get that in your file.
Yeah, pretty much.
And if they're a professional, then they'll be willing, obviously have that and be willing to share it and put it in your file.
Yeah, they probably can disclose it immediately.
Yeah. And and I like your example of flying it, maybe recreational, to film your boat running down around down the lake, but then as soon as you put that online to maybe sell your boat one day, because that's supposed to be the happiest day of a boater's life, right? The day he buys it and sells it. Not for me. I like owning my boat, but so you still have to have if that happens, you could get in trouble there, right?
Yes. And that has happened to individuals. They, drone operator, to try to get their experience and maybe build up their demo reel, which is properties they've flown, will offer freebies to their friends and their relatives. And their friends and relatives could possibly utilize that footage. And it's happened in the past, and throw it online and say, hey, we sell blueberries here at the blueberry farms, and things of that nature.
So if one of our listeners or viewers wants to be a trained drone pilot, and they want to buy a drone, and they want to get it registered, and they want to get their certification, then when they get some training from you or somewhere else to learn how to fly it, you mentioned a couple brands and types. What would you recommend as potential drones to purchase?
That's a hard one. Because now, and I don't really want to go too deep into it, but the U.S. is the DoD, the Department of Defense, has come out with what they call blue drones, and those are drones that are all American made. Now, my DJI is now banned for government use because the technology has been sending what I see to China, possibly.
Wow.
But the Chinese are phenomenal at making the transistor components to the drones. And so what they did was they adopted a list of approved providers, and DJI is actually the first that has hit the list.
And where do you get that list?
You can go to, you can look it up online. But this is one of those issues that is in major discussion right now, because you've got a lot of drone companies that are out there that are utilizing parts from other countries that want to be on the blue list. So it's all in negotiation. I don't want to overstep because it's really kind of a brand new thing that's on the market. Like I said, that's one of the reasons why I fly an Autel. It's not on the list, but it does have Chinese parts.
And it's a blue list?
Yeah, well, it's a blue list.
Blue list. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Lamar, what would you leave our audience with think about moving forward about drones, or hiring people with drones or using them?
Well, whether you fly them or you hire somebody, you need to learn that the drone operator has to know what he's doing. And so there are checks and balances. And if you hire somebody that's doing it wrong, then the chances are that it could come back to you that in the future. Now, as far as recommended drones and things of that nature, the technology is growing, and I co-hosted another thing last year. And so the technology I saw this year compared to last year, there's such an exponential growth. And it is actually kind of scary at how these drones are now being able to do their stuff with AI, artificial intelligence. Wow. They can fly themselves.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Just tell it what to do and it does it, and it comes back to you.
Yeah, but you're liable if it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So
that's right. Well, Lamar, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being on the show and sharing this information.
Thank you, Michael. I really enjoyed myself.
If you'd like some more information, Lamar's website is droneeducationservices.com. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think. Appreciate you sharing the show and connecting with us on your favorite social media. Reach out to me if you have any questions, if I can help you in any way. My email is michael@bullrealty.com. Till next week, be sure that you always lead, learn, and laugh, and join us for America's Commercial Real Estate Show. America's Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Buxton. Take leasing, site selection, and due diligence to the next level. Make the right decisions with on-demand mobile data. Visit buxtonco.com. By Bull Realty. For proven commercial real estate asset and occupancy solutions, contact me. My email is michael@bullrealty.com. By Commercial Agent Success. Expert level commercial real estate broker training. Cloud Access 1 up to 21 one-hour videos. Visit commercialagentsuccess.com. Thank you for reviewing, subscribing, and sharing America's Commercial Real Estate Show.